Hello, this is the first presentation of the Dao De Jing series. I was invited to join a Dao De Jing discussion group a few years ago, and over the years, I have come to some realizations of my own. So I decided to make these little presentations to share with you my findings and my insights of the Dao De Jing. And hopefully through these sharings, it can inspire you to have some insights of your own. Dao De Jing is considered to be one of the most ancient and one of the most profound texts about truth. And a lot of truth seekers from past until now have studied Dao De Jing. And most people find that the concepts are very difficult to understand. So in these presentations, I will try to present these concepts in the way that I think it is easier for you to understand. And for this series of Dao De Jing sharing, I'm going to call it Dao De Jing Made Easy. When most people study Dao De Jing, they started by defining what is Dao and De, but that is not going to be the approach I'm going to take. I'm just going to share with you in a very high level what I think Dao De Jing is all about. So let's start. To me, Dao De Jing describes the universal truth. So the universal truth is this. Everything in this world comes from nothing to something, and every something exists in this world will eventually return to nothing. So this process of nothing to something and something to nothing is the fundamental truth of the existence of every one of us and the existence of the universe. This nothingness is very interesting because this nothingness is really not nothing. If it's really nothing, then this nothingness will not be able to give rise to something. Usually we use a circle to present this nothingness. And in this nothingness, it has this invisible, abundant energy that gives rise to everything. Because this nothingness gives rise to everything, so people think that this nothingness is the essence of everything. And all that comes from this nothingness is the manifestation. So the whole world comes from nothing to something and from something back to nothing. And in other words, everything manifests from essence. So the essence gives rise to manifestation, and the manifestation will eventually return to the essence. So what exactly is Tao? Some people consider this nothingness, this essence of everything as Tao. And some people consider Tao as the way that this nothingness becoming something. Because when nothing becomes something, it's never a random manifestation. It must follow a certain way, a certain principle, or a certain pattern. And some people consider Tao as the functioning principles of something when it exists in this world. So everything exists in this world has its functioning principles. For example, a flower would grow and live in its way naturally. And human being and animals all have its own natural way of living and have certain patterns that it live through. So some people consider that as Tao. And some others would say that for every something in this world to return to nothing, it must follow a certain way. It must find its way back to the nothingness. So people consider this way back to nothingness and way back to the essence as Tao. So what is Tao to me? I think Dao encompasses all elements that we just mentioned. So Dao is the nothingness that is able to give rise to everything. So that's the number one we see in the graph. And Dao is also the way that nothing manifests into something. That's the number two we see in the graph. And Dao is also the functioning principles that every existence in this world has. And that's the number three we see in the graph. And Tao is also the way that every something in this world has to take in order to return to nothing. And that's the number four on the graph. So Tao to me is not one single element of 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a combination of all of them. So we can see Tao as continuous flow of 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the number 5 we see in the graph. So Dao De Jing is about this flow of Dao from nothing to something and something back to nothing. And in some chapters of Dao De Jing, it focuses on one or few elements. But if we don't bear in mind this big picture of the flow of Dao, it will be difficult for us to have a good comprehension of each of the element. So this is my brief and high-level overview of what Dao De Jing is about. Hopefully, this has provided you some insights that you may not have before.